everybody, this is Jerry Scarlata, and this is episode number 13 of Thrive TV. And today we're going to finish up our series on basic human movements. So far, to recap, we've talked about hinge, squat, carry, pull, and a little bit of everything else. We've done groundwork. We'll continue to go over everything else because there's a lot that fits into that category. So we'll continue to go over that. However, we're going to finish up today with number 6, and that will be press. So we've done, or push. We've done hinge, squat, pull, carry, a little bit of everything else, and today we're doing push or press. We'll call it press today. So with pressing movements are similar to pulling movements in that there are 2 variations of them. You can do horizontal pressing or vertical pressing. Whenever we went over horizontal pulling or vertical pulling, we did chin-ups for vertical pulls and inverted rows and dumbbell rows for horizontal pulls. As you can imagine, horizontal presses and vertical presses are going to move in the same plane as the vertical pulls and horizontal pulls. We'll go over three exercises for you again today. 2 horizontal presses and 1 vertical press. Again, there are tons and tons of variations, so what we go over today is not what you're limited to. We'll go over bench press today, for instance, because that's everybody's favorite. We'll go over bench press, and there are tons of bench press variations that you can do. You can use barbell, dumbbell, kettlebell, 1 arm, 2 arm, alternating. So there are tons of variations that you can do with these presses, and take even the ones that we show you and again do different variations with them. So with pulls, we talked about being able to balance out your pushes and presses, at least balance them out, especially pulls and horizontal pulls and not doing as many vertical pulls, because a lot of people tend to do a lot of pull downs because it's just easy to do. So working on a lot of horizontal pulling and balancing out that presses and pulls. If you can get 2 pulls to every 1 press, that would be awesome, because it's more likely that you're doing significantly more pressing than you are pulling, whether it's push-ups or bench press. Those are the 2 that most people tend to do, shoulder press, military press, or anything like that. So being able to balance your push and your pull out so that you're not having an imbalance from front to back and having shoulder issues because of it. Again, a lot of people have shoulder issues. We talked about this look with with guys who walk around like this, shoulder mobility issues. Again, that's doing a lot of pressing, a lot of bench pressing has a lot to do with this look, especially with the shoulders roll forward. If the shoulders are rolled forward anteriorly like this, that probably means that they've done a ton of pressing in their front muscles, their pecs especially, and their anterior shoulders are just, they're shortened in this forward motion, so they're just stuck like this. Not overly important, however, being able to balance yourself out so that you don't have those issues, and so you don't have scapula and shoulder issues due to an imbalance of pressing versus pulling. So, like I said, we're going to go over 3 press variations today. We'll have Sharon help us out with this whenever she's finished with her dead bugs over here. We're kind of interrupting her workout. However, she get a little bit of workout with this as well, so it'll be good for her. So the first thing we're going to do is go over bench press, okay? And bench press is something that you can place in. It's really a strength building exercise for the most part, but you can also use it really as a hypertrophy exercise if you're trying to put on muscle, or power exercise if you want to do it more explosively. So it's something that you can place in the beginning of your workout, in the middle, or at the end, really dependent on what you're trying to utilize it for. You can use it in the 3 to 5 rep range if you're trying to get strong. If you want to put on, get some strength up, you can do in the 6 to 12 rep range if you're shooting for hypertrophy, or just trying to get more muscle than you are trying to get strong. So, as tripping over the dumbbells over here. As Sharon gets set up for her bench press, so a couple things you want to do. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points of contact. Okay, so I just pointed at both of her feet, her butt, both of her shoulders, and her head. Those are the 6 points of contact that are always there. Those things never move. Okay, once you're set up and you're benching, those things stay intact. A lot of people have a tendency to want to raise their butt off the bench as they're pressing up because they're just trying to get the weight up. It's at that point, it's not a matter of working on form or making sure that you're doing it correctly. You're just trying to get the weight up. So making sure that your butt stays intact with the bench and that your feet stay intact with the floor. This is another one that people have a tendency to do is, as they're pressing up, lift your feet off the floor. That's definitely one of the worst things that you can do because all of a sudden you lose your balance on the bench and down you go. So keeping your feet nice and intact on the floor. For us, we keep them intact on the feet of the bench because our benches are higher than usual. So your feet nice and intact on the floor, your glutes on the bench and tight, your shoulders on the bench and your scapula retracted, pinched together, and your head on the bench, okay? So if you look right here, you should be able to see a little bit of space, okay? There's a little bit of space between Sharon's back and the bench, okay? This shouldn't be overly exaggerated. It shouldn't be a huge space where I can fit my fist here, but it should be enough space that I can slide my hand under here and get to the other side, all right? So you want to keep your core tight, again, not overly extended so that your rib cage is popping up in the air, keeping the shoulders intact, glutes intact, feet intact, head intact. Notice I keep saying that because those are important things. They stay still. They don't move throughout the exercise. All that we're moving is our arms. Okay, so when her hands are getting set up, and you can't see the angle, but her hands are shoulder width apart, even on either side of the bar. Okay, so you have to find the middle of the bar, and then make sure your hands are set up even on both sides of the bar. Once our hands are set up, we can pull the bar off the rack nice and easy. Generally, I'll be behind her spotting her, but I have confidence that Sharon's not going to crush herself today with this weight. All right, so we can pull off nice and easy, and you can just kind of slowly rep through 5 or 6 of them. So again, slow and steady wins the race. It's not about dropping the weight on your chest and then pushing it back up. Gravity does not work with you that way. What Newton's laws of physics tell us is that an object in motion will stay in motion until an equal or opposite force reacts against it. So if you have 200 pounds and you just drop it and try and bounce it off your chest and have to turn around and pull it back up, there's a lot more force that you have to produce to turn it back around and to push it back up. So if you are lowering it at a steady pace, or what we like to say, pulling it to your chest, if you're pulling it to your chest at a steady pace and then you turn it back around at the same pace or faster pace, it is better for you to have to turn it back around at a faster pace than if you're dropping it and having to stop it and turn it back around because of the inertia of the weight. A little physics education for you today. And that's with any kind of pressing movement or pulling movement. Just remember, the pace is important because the pace, sorry, I'll get out of the way. Just remember the pace is important because of physics. Like physics is located in the gym, and weights weigh a certain amount because of how much gravity is pushing them down on the ground. So if all you're doing is taking a weight off of a bar and dropping it on your chest and having to turn it back around, you're putting way too much energy into it. Let yourself take your time and pull the bar down to you, and then you can turn it back around and drive it back up, possibly at a better rate than if you just drop it on your chest and you're having to turn it back around and push it back up. So that's the first one. We talked about bench press. Again, you can do dumbbells, barbells. You can use it in any way. However, make sure you're balancing out with pulls, okay? Horizontal pulls. So the second one we'll go over today are push-ups. And there are again, a bunch of different variations that we can go over, and we're going to go over 3 variations of push-ups today. I didn't tell you about all 3.
Yeah.
No, I tricked you here.
Surprise.
Sorry about that.
All right.
So, dependent on, women especially have a hard time doing push-ups, and surprisingly, a lot of high school boys have a hard time doing push-ups correctly. Depending on where you are on the push-up continuum will depend on where you are on this, how the exercises that will show you. So the easiest version of a push-up is a shoulders elevated push-up. The higher your shoulders are, go ahead and put your hands down. The higher your shoulders are, the less body weight you have to push, okay? So because her hands are up on the bench, she doesn't have to push her whole body weight if her hands were on the ground, okay? So her hands are on the bench, she's a little higher, she has less leverage, or she's at a higher angle, so she doesn't have to push as much of her body weight as if she were all the way on the ground. So this is an easier version. This is a great place to start. Go ahead and give me 5 of them. Nice and easy. Make sure with your push-ups, your hand placement is important. Whenever you come down, your hands should not be way up here, and your elbows should not be way flared out to the side whenever you come down. Your elbows want to go on a certain path, and you want to let them go on their path. You don't want them flared out here, okay? Your hands, also as you come down, should not be way up here by your shoulders. Your hands should be down here, right outside of your chest. Whether you're doing push-ups on a bench, push-ups on a bar, push-ups on the floor, it doesn't matter. Whenever you come down, your hands should be about chest height, okay? So that's step number 1. Step number 2 are just push-ups off the ground, okay? And this is what everyone aspires to and wants to do, and a lot of people think that they're doing them correctly, but aren't doing them correctly. Go ahead and get yourself, yeah, right here is good. Just hang out for about 10 seconds. So if you look at this, this is just a plank. Everyone knows what a plank is. Plank's typically done on your elbows, but this is just a plank in push-up position. So all a push-up is, go and give me 5 of them, nice and easy. All a push-up is a moving plank. So if the rest of your body is moving while you're doing a push-up, that's not correct. It's a moving plank. So you have to keep your glutes tight, you have to keep your core tight, and then you have to keep your legs straight. If you can't do them with your legs off your toes, do them off your knees, and that's okay. Okay? Don't worry about the knees.
Okay.
If you can't do them off your toes, do them off your knees, and that's fine. All right? However, if you're doing them off your toes and you're not getting a good range of motion, you're not getting as much bang for your buck as you can be getting, okay? So if you can't do full range of motion here off the floor, either number 1, do them off your knees, or number 2, do them off a bench, okay? So that's step 2. We're gonna go through reps and stuff here in a minute. That's step 2. Step 3 is feet up on a bench or elevated up on a box, okay?
Should have done the hard ones first.
Yeah, sorry. All right, so now we have our feet up on a box, and now not only are her feet up, having her feet up means she's pushing more of her weight because her weight is pushing down on her body. All right, with her shoulders up, her weight was up. Okay, she didn't have as much weight to push. With her feet up, her weight's pushing her down to the floor. Okay, go ahead and give me 5, nice and easy. All right, again, the same thing, keeping a nice straight line, moving plank. Understand that, number 1, your range of motion might be a little different here because your face is more in the way. So you have to watch your face, number 1. And number 2, when you're doing feet elevated push-ups, your hips at the bottom have a tendency to sag because you feel like that's in line. So pay attention to where your hips are relative to the rest of your body as you're doing those push-ups, okay, with your feet elevated. All right, so those are the 2 horizontal pushes we're going to go over. The last one we're going to do is a vertical push, all right? So the vertical push we're going to do today is dumbbell press, all right? We do dumbbell presses around here with 1 arm at a time. With 2 arms, it's just much easier to cheat. We always start on the floor, and we start half kneeling on the floor. So if we're going to do our left arm, we're going to start with our left knee on the ground, our right foot up. We're going to be in a lunge position. Make sure your back toe's in sprinter stance and your front shin is perpendicular to the ground, or the knees at 90 degrees. All right, so we're just going to do straight presses. We're not going to curl press. So make sure that this elbow stays in. It's not flared out, okay? So your palm's facing you the whole time, all right? And then all we're going to do is punch the sky nice and easy, okay? And then back down nice and easy. Again, dropping the weight down to the shoulder. Number one, you're going to have shoulder issues. It's going to hurt it eventually. Number two, just having to turn the weight back around and press it back up. One more.
Thanks.
Tiring you out a little bit?
A little bit.
Nice job.
Thanks.
All right, I'm finished with you.
Okay.
Thanks for your help.
Thanks.
So, with the shoulder presses, again, making sure you're keeping a steady rate, a steady pace, okay? Your tempo is staying relatively the same, especially on the way down. You don't want just drop and then go. Okay, steady pace on the way down, you turn around, then you can drive it up, all right? So we went over bench press, we went over push-ups. I want to talk a little bit more about push-ups real quick as far as reps and just progressing goes. So like I said, shoulders elevated push-ups are the easiest version that you can do. With shoulders elevated push-ups, if you have a rack at your gym or even at your house is great, but if you're going to a fitness center, you have a rack at the fitness center, and there are certain spots on the rack where you can move it down and you can move the bar down the rack. That's perfect because you can start high and you can slowly move down each peg all the way to the ground, okay? So if you can do that, and if you can't, that's okay too, but if you can do that, you start yourself pretty high, get comfortable, get to a position where you can do at least 3 sets of 12 comfortable push-ups off of that height, move down the rack one peg. Once you can get to 3 sets of 12 comfortable push-ups on that height, just keep moving down each week, or if you can go down faster than that each day, that's awesome until you get to the floor. There's going to come a point where your strength slows down, I guess. If you're progressing correctly, you're going to go down pretty quick, and then you're going to get to a spot where it seems like you're just starting to struggle a little more, okay? Once you get to that spot, just work on it. Work on it, and make sure you're doing it correct. Don't jump down to the next peg because you want to go down. Work on it and let your body figure it out, and then you can go down. I promise, we've had plenty of people, especially women, come in here and not be able to do a regular push-up, and now they're doing push-up with weight on their back and the feet up on a box, okay? So you can do it if you're patient. Start up, move yourself down. Once you get to the floor, do the same thing. Make sure you're nailing at least 3 sets of 12. Once you get to the floor, before you start putting your feet up, actually I would say 3 sets of probably about 15 to 20 before you put your feet up on a box, unless you have something small like a 3 to 6 inch box. If the biggest box or the shortest box that you have is 12 inches, or the shortest bench is 12 inches, you should be able to get 15 to 20, 3 sets of 15 to 20 good push-ups off of the ground before you start putting your feet up, okay? And then once you start putting your feet up, the sky's the limit for you. You can put weight on your back or anything like that. Like I said, there are a ton of variations of these things. We just went over a few here. So be patient with yourself when you're working on your push-ups, and understand that so we talked about the chin-up and the inverted row last time. Those are body weight movements. A lot of people are not very good at those, just like a lot of people are not very good at push-ups. You would be surprised, high school athletes, even boys, are not very good at push-ups. So being able to nail that, stay in the plank position, be a moving plank, keep yourself tight throughout your core, and being able to nail the movement is going to translate into a lot of other things, a lot of other exercises. So as far as programming them in, if you're wanting to do them on purpose and actually be able to get build some strength like we're talking about, then you want to put them a little earlier in your workout, okay? You want to put them in your first group if you're doing groups of workouts. It's not something that you want to leave to the end if you're trying to work on them. If you're not doing them, if you don't feel like you're doing them correctly. If you feel like you're doing them correctly and you can actually do, 3 sets of 20 good push-ups pretty easily, then it's okay to, start throwing them in with cardio or throw them in at the end of a workout, or supersetting them with other things at the end of a workout. So, for instance, one of the big groups that we do here a lot are kettlebell swings and push-ups. All right, so we'll do 20 kettlebell swings, and then we'll drop down and do 10 push-ups. Do that 4 times, and you'll be tired. You have gotten 80 swings up, and you've gotten 40 push-ups in. So, nobody important?
No.
No? Okay.
Frankfurt.
Frankfurt?
Yes.
Oh,
Nobody
maybe
even
Texas.
talked to me.
We don't want Texas. Phone was just ringing. What was I talking about? Push-ups. So, if you can do push-ups really well, if you're already nailing 3 sets of 20, stick them at the end and do some cardio with them. Do some swings, do some goblet squats, do some metabolic conditioning with them at the end, okay? If you can do them well. You can do them feet elevated or whatever if you feel like you're doing them right. If you have to get stronger at them, understand, just because you can bench press 200 pounds or 150 pounds more than your body weight, just because you can bench press more than your body weight doesn't mean you're doing a push-up correct, okay? Work on the push-up. If you can control your body and nail your push-up, then it's going to translate into a lot of other things, okay? With the bench press, again, we kind of talked about that a little bit already. Stick it at the beginning of your workout for the most part all the time, unless you're just kind of doing it as accessory work. Dumbbell bench, you can do later on in your workout. However, if you're trying to get stronger at it, it should be at the beginning of your workout. With the shoulder press as well, again, beginning of your workout. The shoulder press is not something necessarily that I would do sets of 3 to 5 on, because most people's shoulder mobility is not very good because of the environment that we work and live in, sitting down all the time. Because most people's shoulder mobility is not very good, I wouldn't do sets of 3 to 5, like heavy sets of 3 to 5 for most people because of that. If you're doing sets of 6 to 8 or 6 to 10, something along those lines, with a decent weight, that's fine, because you shouldn't have to struggle through it as much, okay? If you're working on shoulder mobility and stuff like that, then, if your shoulder mobility is pretty good, then you can kind of work in those sets of 3 to 5. But for the most part, I wouldn't deal with it. We'll get into mobility work and stuff like that down the road. So, to sum up, bench press, push-ups, half kneeling shoulder presses. Plug them in wherever you're comfortable, depending on what you're trying to work on. Make sure you're nailing the movements. Make sure you're doing them on purpose before you start plugging weight on for bench press and shoulder press, and then make sure that you're really getting your push-ups down as you move down the rack if you're doing shoulders elevated, or before you put your feet up on a bench if you're doing flat push-ups off the ground. So if you guys have any questions, you can hit us up on Twitter at The Thrive Pack. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next time. Oh my goodness, that was long.